Welcome back to our story channel. Where are you watching from? State your state in the comment, subscribe and let's continue. It was a day like any other, yet beneath the veneer of normalcy, tension thrummed. Ibrahim Traore, the young, enigmatic captain who had recently seized power in Burkina Faso, found himself staring out the window of his modest office in the presidential palace, a frown etching itself onto his youthful face. The weight of a nation, fractured by years of instability and insurgency, pressed heavily on his shoulders. He was a soldier, not a politician. A man of action, not rhetoric. He had taken power not out of ambition, but out of a desperate need to steer his country away from the precipice. The people were tired of empty promises, of corruption that choked the life out of their hopes. He wanted to give them back their dignity, their future. But the task seemed insurmountable. His gaze drifted across the courtyard below. Soldiers, clad in fatigues and carrying AK-47s, patrolled the perimeter. Their faces were tight, their eyes constantly scanning the surroundings. Security had been ramped up since the coup, but Traore knew that threats lurked in the shadows, whispers of counter-coups and conspiracies swirling like the harmattan dust. He turned away from the window, a sigh escaping his lips. He needed to clear his head. He grabbed his simple military cap and headed for the door, ignoring the protests of his security detail. He needed to feel the pulse of the city, to connect with the people he was trying to serve. "Captain, with all due respect," Lieutenant Issa, his most trusted bodyguard, pleaded, "it's not safe. We've received intelligence." "Intelligence?" Traore scoffed, a hint of weariness in his voice. "There's always intelligence. I can't live in a cage, Issa. I need to see for myself, to hear for myself." Issa, a man of unwavering loyalty, knew better than to argue further. He simply nodded, his face etched with concern. "At least let me send a discreet security team." Traore relented. "Fine. But no fanfare. I want to be invisible." He slipped out of the palace, accompanied by a small, unassuming convoy of two unmarked vehicles. They navigated the bustling streets of Ouagadougou, the city a vibrant tapestry of sights and sounds. Women in brightly colored pagnas bartered in the markets, children chased each other through the narrow alleyways, and the rhythmic beat of drums echoed from a nearby compound. As they drove past the central market, a cacophony of hawkers and shoppers spilling onto the street, Traore noticed a small crowd gathered around a water vendor. He signaled the driver to stop. "Wait here," he instructed, stepping out of the vehicle. He approached the crowd, his presence unnoticed in the throng of people. He listened as the vendor, a wizened old woman with eyes that held a lifetime of stories, poured cool water into goods. The people spoke of hardship, of rising food prices, of the constant threat of violence in the rural areas. Their voices were hushed, but their words were laced with a quiet desperation. Traore felt a pang of guilt. He had promised them change, but so far, little had improved. The problems were deep-rooted, systemic. He needed more time, more resources, but time was a luxury he didn't have. As he turned to leave, a glint of metal caught his eye. A man, his face hidden beneath a wide-brimmed hat, was pushing through the crowd, his hand concealed inside his jacket. Traore instinctively knew something was wrong. The man's eyes darted nervously, his movements were too deliberate, too focused. He felt a surge of adrenaline. This was no ordinary pickpocket. He moved swiftly, positioning himself between the man and the crowd. He reached out, grabbing the man's arm. "Let me see what you have there," he said, his voice low and menacing. The man froze, his eyes widening in panic. He tried to pull away, but Traore's grip was too strong. A struggle ensued, the crowd scattering in fear. Suddenly, a shot rang out. Traore felt a searing pain in his shoulder, the force of the bullet knocking him off balance. He stumbled, hitting the ground hard. The attacker, emboldened, raised his weapon for another shot. Everything seemed to move in slow motion. He saw the man's finger tighten on the trigger, the dark muzzle of the gun pointed directly at his head. He braced himself for the impact. Then, a figure darted in front of him, a woman shielding him with her body. Another shot echoed through the marketplace. The woman gasped, clutching her stomach. She was pregnant. The attacker, momentarily stunned, hesitated. Traore seized the opportunity, kicking out with his leg, disarming the man. Issa and the security team, alerted by the gunshots, arrived in a flurry of action, tackling the assailant to the ground. Traore, his shoulder bleeding profusely, cradled the woman in his arms. Her face was pale, her breathing shallow. He recognized her. She was Aita, the wife of a local carpenter. He had seen her several times in the neighborhood. Aita, why? He asked, his voice filled with anguish. She looked up at him, her eyes filled with a serene courage. You are our hope, Captain. I couldn't let him kill you. He felt a wave of emotion wash over him, gratitude, admiration, and a profound sense of responsibility. This woman, a complete stranger, had risked her life, and the life of her unborn child, to save him. He couldn't let her sacrifice be in vain. The security team quickly cleared a path, and they rushed Aita to the nearest hospital. Traore, still bleeding from his shoulder wound, insisted on accompanying her. The hospital was a chaotic scene, overflowing with patients and understaffed. Doctors and nurses rushed about, their faces etched with exhaustion. Despite the chaos, they recognized Traore and immediately attended to Aita. Traore waited anxiously outside the operating room, his heart pounding in his chest. He paced back and forth, replaying the events of the past hour in his mind. He had been so close to death. He had been saved by the selfless act of a pregnant woman. He thought about his own life, his own ambitions. He had been so focused on the grand scheme of things, on the political machinations and the military strategies, that he had almost forgotten the human element. He had almost forgotten the faces of the people he was fighting for. He vowed to himself that if Aita and her baby survived, he would dedicate his life to serving them, to serving all the people of Burkina Faso. He would not let their sacrifices be in vain. Hours passed, each minute feeling like an eternity. Finally, a doctor emerged from the operating room, his face weary but relieved. Captain, he said, the woman is stable. We managed to save her and the baby. It's a girl. Traore felt a surge of relief so profound that it almost brought him to his knees. He had been given a second chance, and so had Aita and her child. He was allowed to see Aita briefly. She was still weak, but her eyes were open, and a faint smile played on her lips. Thank you, Captain, she whispered. Thank you for everything. No, Aita, he said, his voice choked with emotion. Thank you. You saved my life. You saved our country. He knew that the road ahead would be long and difficult. There would be more threats, more challenges, more obstacles to overcome. But he also knew that he was not alone. He had the support of the people, the unwavering loyalty of his soldiers, and the inspiration of a pregnant woman who had shown him the true meaning of courage and sacrifice. The news of the assassination attempt and Aita's heroic act spread like wildfire throughout Ouagadougou. The people, already weary of violence and instability, were deeply moved by her selflessness. They saw her as a symbol of hope, a testament to the resilience and compassion of the Burkina spirit. Traore, humbled and invigorated, returned to the presidential palace with a renewed sense of purpose. He knew that he had to act decisively to address the root causes of the country's problems. He had to fight corruption, improve education, and create opportunities for the people. He had to unite the country, to heal the divisions that had plagued it for so long. He began by implementing a series of reforms, targeting corruption and inefficiency in the government. He appointed honest and competent officials to key positions and launched investigations into past wrongdoings. He also prioritized education, allocating more resources to schools and universities. He understood that education was the key to unlocking the potential of the Burkina people. He also reached out to the various ethnic and religious groups in the country, seeking to build bridges and foster understanding. He organized dialogues and consultations, listening to their concerns and addressing their grievances. He emphasized the importance of unity and solidarity, reminding them that they were all Burkinab, bound together by a common destiny. His efforts were met with mixed reactions. Some welcomed the reforms, seeing them as a genuine attempt to improve the country. Others were skeptical, questioning his motives and doubting his ability to bring about lasting change. And there were those who actively opposed him, fearing that his reforms would threaten their vested interests. The threats against him continued, whispers of conspiracies and plots reaching his ears. He knew that his enemies were plotting his downfall, waiting for an opportunity to strike. But he refused to be intimidated. He was determined to stay the course, to fulfill his promise to the people. He visited Aita and her baby regularly, providing them with the best possible care. He saw in the child a symbol of hope, a reminder of the future he was fighting for. He named her Mariam, meaning a star of the sea, a tribute to Aita's courage and selflessness. One evening, as he was leaving the hospital, he was approached by a group of young people. They were students, activists, and community leaders. They had come to express their support for him and his reforms. "Captain," one of them said, "we believe in you. We believe in your vision for Burkina Faso. We are ready to stand by you." Traore was deeply moved by their words. He realized that he was not alone. He had the support of the youth, the future of Burkina Faso. "Thank you," he said, his voice filled with gratitude. "Together, we can build a better future for our country." He spent the next few months traveling throughout the country, meeting with the people, listening to their concerns, and reaffirming his commitment to them. He visited villages and towns, schools and hospitals, farms and factories. He spoke to farmers, teachers, students, workers, and community leaders. He learned about their struggles, their hopes, and their dreams. He also continued to implement his reforms, pushing forward with his agenda despite the opposition. He cracked down on corruption, improved education, and promoted economic development. He also strengthened the security forces, equipping them with the resources they needed to protect the country from internal and external threats. His efforts began to bear fruit. The economy started to grow, education levels improved, and the security situation stabilized. The people began to feel a sense of hope, a sense that things were finally starting to change for the better. But the challenges remained. The country was still facing significant problems, including poverty, inequality, and insecurity. And the threats against Traore continued, the whispers of conspiracies growing louder. One day, he received intelligence that a major attack was being planned against him. A group of disgruntled soldiers, backed by foreign interests, were plotting to overthrow his government and assassinate him. He knew that he had to act quickly. He convened a meeting of his top advisors, including Lieutenant Issa and the head of military intelligence. "We have to stop them before they can strike," he said. "We have to identify the plotters and bring them to justice." The intelligence chief presented a detailed report, identifying the key players in the conspiracy and their plans. Traore listened intently, his face grim. "We have to move swiftly and decisively," he said. "Issa, I want you to lead the operation. Arrest the plotters and bring them to me." Issa nodded, his face determined. "We won't fail you, Captain." The operation was launched that night. The security forces moved swiftly and efficiently, arresting the key plotters without firing a shot. The coup attempt was foiled. Traore interrogated the plotters himself, trying to understand their motives. He learned that they were motivated by greed, ambition, and a desire to restore the old order. They had been promised money and power by foreign interests in exchange for overthrowing his government. He was disgusted by their treachery. He had trusted them, given them positions of responsibility. And they had betrayed him and the country. He ordered them to be tried for treason. They were found guilty and sentenced to life imprisonment. The foiling of the coup attempt strengthened Traore's position. The people saw him as a strong and decisive leader, a man who was willing to defend the country against its enemies. He continued to implement his reforms, pushing forward with his agenda despite the challenges. He cracked down on corruption, improved education, and promoted economic development. he also strengthened the security forces, equipping them with the resources they needed to protect the country from internal and external threats. He also continued to visit Aita and Mariam regularly, providing them with the best possible care. He saw in Mariam a symbol of hope, a reminder of the future he was fighting for. One day, as he was playing with Mariam in the garden, Aita approached him. "Captain," she said, "I want to thank you again for everything you have done for me and my daughter. You have changed our lives." "Aita," he said, "it is I who should be thanking you. You saved my life, and you inspired me to be a better leader." He looked at Mariam, her eyes sparkling with innocence and joy. He knew that he had to do everything in his power to ensure that she and all the children of Burkina Faso had a bright and prosperous future. He rededicated himself to his mission, vowing to continue fighting for the people of Burkina Faso, to continue building a better future for their country. Years passed. Burkina Faso, under Traoré's leadership, underwent a remarkable transformation. The economy grew, education levels improved, and the security situation stabilized. The country became a beacon of hope in the region, a symbol of stability and progress. Traoré remained a humble and dedicated leader, always putting the interests of the people first. He continued to live a simple life, rejecting the trappings of power and privilege. He remained committed to fighting corruption, promoting education, and strengthening the security forces. He never forgot Aita and Mariam. They remained close to him, a constant reminder of the courage and selflessness of the Burkina people. One day, as he was addressing the nation on the anniversary of the coup, he spoke of Aita's heroic act. "It was a pregnant woman," he said, his voice filled with emotion, "who saved my life. She risked her life, and the life of her unborn child, to protect me. She showed us the true meaning of courage and sacrifice. She is a symbol of the Burkina spirit, a spirit of resilience, compassion, and hope." The people erupted in applause, their hearts filled with gratitude and pride. They knew that Traoré was a true leader, a man who had dedicated his life to serving them. He concluded his speech with a call to unity and solidarity. "Let us all work together," he said, "to build a better future for Burkina Faso. Let us honor the sacrifices of those who have come before us, and let us create a country where all our children can thrive." The people responded with enthusiasm, their voices united in a chorus of hope. They knew that with Traoré at the helm, Burkina Faso could overcome any challenge and achieve its full potential. The Harmattan wind still blew through the streets of Ouagadougou, but now it carried whispers of hope, of progress, and of a brighter future. The scent of wood smoke mingled with the aroma of success, a testament to the resilience and determination of the Burkina people. And in the heart of it all stood Ibrahim Traore, the young captain who had been saved by a pregnant woman, the leader who had transformed a nation. He would be forever known as the man who brought hope to Burkina Faso, the man who proved that even in the darkest of times, the human spirit can prevail. He continued to serve as president for many years to come, always striving to live up to the faith Aita had placed in him, always striving to make Burkina Faso a nation worthy of her sacrifice. The story of Aita, the pregnant woman who saved his life, became a national legend, a symbol of courage, selflessness, and the enduring power of the human spirit. And Mariam, the child she saved, grew up to become a strong and independent woman, a leader in her own right, carrying on her mother's legacy of service and sacrifice. The seeds of hope that were planted on that fateful day in the marketplace continued to blossom, transforming Burkina Faso into a nation of peace, prosperity, and unity. And the legend of Ibrahim Traore, the captain who was saved by a pregnant woman, would live on for generations to come, inspiring others to believe in the power of hope, the importance of courage, and the transformative potential of leadership. He created schools, hospitals, and he makes the people who saved him ministers. He continues to make Burkina proud. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe, like, comment, and share your thoughts.